So here to solve the Statue Park hex puzzle by JinHoo Ahn called Triplets. First thing, just looking at the grid, we see the clues in this are all three groups together, and there's a ton of symmetry, except for the bottom, and only the bottom row. Everything else is left-right symmetric here, so things you can do at the start are really mirrored on left and right. We, for instance, can't take this cell because it would put 5 connected into a group, so instead this comes out on its own. That forces white out one more cell on its own. At the top, actually, these can't dodge taking the cell because in forming this shape, they would isolate a white cell. So this is forced to take one up top. And this is where I'm going to, instead of just continuing with the puzzle for a bit, I want to jump to the S policy set, because if you haven't looked at this before, there are some more and less constraining shapes in this, just like with a pentomino set that we're seeing. There are actually some parallels there, like I is a long straight one, exactly like an I pentomino, just one cell shorter. Y is one that works kind of like the X. It's often more constraining. It takes up a lot of space, but it needs to have a very special central cell or it can't fit into the grid. And so at this stage in the puzzle, there's probably a little more we can map about the shapes. Like right now, this top one is exactly a P, so P is already effectively known in the grid. It's at the top. And like on the side, we have these shapes where this can become an O, it can become a C, it can become an L. And so we sort of have like a set of options around these. I looks like it could be limiting, but again, we've got some I's here, so maybe not that, and S sort of has other options too, each of those left, right. The one I don't know how to make yet is a Y, so let's look at that. I said it was tough sometimes like the X, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I also have all the tetrahexes clued by the given shape, so either this or this has to be part of a Y. This has to go out one more cell, and once I do that, notice that the central cell of that Y is very tricky here. If it's this cell, it's going to come and sit over a white, and if it's here, then the rest of the shape is also immediately forced and it joins. And so in the same way, an X pentomino is often immediately forced. In this case, this cell on the edge forces the whole Y shape, but it is the only place a Y can go into the grid. So we fill this in, that completes this O. This over here is now an L or a C. It's got to work with this that's coming up. And so a thing to recognize with that is whether I take this cell or this cell, I always mark this one off. So this comes in here. This is now an S or an L. And so now I am down to where the limiting spaces will probably be the idea of an I up top, where now only this or this can be the I. And notice I'm taking this cell or this cell that marks this off. And once I mark this cell off, I've now eliminated this as an I position. So I've got just this I that can go into the grid. Putting that in, now let's just think about these collectively. I still need to get an S. I can get an L. What I can't do is make this into a C. So this is the only C. That makes this the L. That confirms this is the S. And I'm now crowded to make only one P. And I'm through the puzzle. So a good introduction to this tetrahex set. We're going to use it again in future puzzles this week, but if you've not seen it before, the S policy set, particularly Y like the X in pentomino space, some of these other shapes sort of like those in pentomino space, allow for a lot of interesting puzzles, including this fun one from JinHoo. So thanks for the puzzle, thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you again soon.